Alright, hey guys, what's up? It's all about Mike 18 here with another TV episode review. Guys, this is probably going to be one of my final TV episode reviews for a while, actually. I think I'm going to stop the TV episode reviews until fall, because with the conclusion of this season finale, I have no other shows to watch for the rest of the next few months. So yeah, guys, in this video I'm going to be reviewing the season 2 finale of Bates Motel. That's right, guys, Bates Motel season 2 finale was tonight, and man, this season went by fast. That's all I have to say. I started like the first week of March, and it's already over. I mean, it's only been on for 2 months. And it already ended, so that was very surprising that it went by. It felt like it went by that fast, even though it was a 2-month span. But anyway, guys, yes, tonight was the finale of Bates Motel, and I really have no other TV shows I'm currently watching, so my TV life is going to be very boring until like Walking Dead comes back on or whatever. But anyway, getting on to Bates Motel, I was really looking forward to tonight's episode, guys, especially with the last couple of really great episodes we've had for the season. In this video, I'm not only going to discuss tonight's episode, but I'm briefly going to discuss my thoughts on the season. I was thinking about doing a whole season overview review, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to give you my thoughts on the whole season at the end of the video. But right off the bat, in my opinion, the second half of the season really impressed me, because the first half I was a little wonky about. I wasn't too fond of it, but I gotta say, overall, decent season. So tonight's episode, guys, is season 2, episode 10, the presumable truth. Hold on a sec. The immutable truth. Excuse me. The immutable truth. And in case you guys didn't know, spoiler heavy. I'm gonna spoil the whole entire episode if you haven't watched it yet. And I think, honestly, first initial thoughts right after finishing watching the episode, I was upset with really one thing, and it's the fact that the show isn't going to come back till March. And with the way they ended it, you're left saying to yourself, well, I was left saying to myself, I like how they ended it, but man, I just want to see what's going to happen next, because you know that, the tension is just going to build in the next season, and something bad is going to happen to these major characters, and I can't wait for that moment to happen. But we have to wait till season 3 for that, and that's honestly the most upsetting part of this episode, was that it ended. And I honestly didn't expect to get really upset with the way the episode ended, because, and the only reason why I got upset was because I didn't want the show to end. I wanted to see, I already want season 3 already. I want to see what is going to happen to these characters, because I honestly got really entertained by the show in the last few episodes, and I really got invested in what was going on with the story, and I'm really curious to see what's gonna happen with the show from now, because there are a lot of directions the show could go in with the way they just ended this episode, and I'm very curious, and I'm gonna leave predictions, I think, for season 3. But anyway, getting to the actual episode. Again, a couple different story plot points going on. Really just 2 in the end. Yeah, just 2. You have the aftermath of Norman in the box, and his whole conflict with himself in this episode, because that was definitely present, and the fact that Norma doesn't want to believe that he murdered Miss Watson. And then you have the other plot point centering around Dylan and the conclusion of the drug war, and it involves Sheriff Romero. So overall, interesting episode tonight. I'm gonna say it wasn't a massively impressive season finale. I enjoyed it. I think the season 1 finale was probably handled a little bit better because of that really cliffhanger ending, and tonight's episode ended with a lot more closure on a lot of storylines from the whole entire season, which was good, was nice to see. But anyway, getting to the plot, I'm just going to go in chronological order, basically. I'm not going to talk about one storyline and then talk about the other. I'm just going to go in chronological order tonight for the sake of saving time or whatever, keeping this video organized. But anyway, it is the aftermath of what happened at the end of last week's episode, as we all know, Dylan killed Nick Ford when he went to go see him to tell him that there's no way I'm getting to Zane. He's got bodyguards all over the place. It's not happening, man. And Dylan killed Nick Ford with that fire poker, and he ran off. And at the very end of last week's episode, Romero finds out about Norman being kidnapped by Nick Ford, goes off to go find him, and Norman comes to terms with some of the the things he has done in the past when he's experienced the blackouts. Namely, what I mean by that is he realized that he killed Miss Watson. Slept with her and then killed her. And beginning this episode, Romero is speeding down a highway or down some road and finds Dylan, and the two of them, and Dylan tells him what he did. He just killed Nick Ford, and the two of them head back to Nick Ford's place, and Romero interrogates this guy. Something I really like about Romero, he's just whenever something has to get done, he'll do it. He doesn't care. With the way he interrogated that guy, I really liked that. I really liked Romero's character, and there was a lot of speculation that he was going to get killed in this episode, and I really honestly didn't want him to die. I wanted him to, I wanted them to save him for season 3, because there are a lot of different things they can do with him, and I'm glad that they did what they did. But anyway, after interrogating this guard of Nick Ford's, they find out where Norman is. They go to the woods. They find Norman and get him out of that box finally, once and for all. And Dylan and Norman had a very nice, sweet moment, I guess, when they found Norman, and the two of them hugged each other, because they've always had a sort of a on and off strained relationship, Dylan and Norman, in the first 2 seasons, and that was nice. But anyway, Norman's brought to the hospital and everything, and of course Norma is overjoyed that they found him. And she brings him home after he goes to the hospital and everything's okay. He's checked out, he's okay. And let me just talk about this real quick scene between Norma and that Christine chick, that redhead chick who I always found rather attractive anyway. She, the sister of George, the boyfriend, and as I predicted in last week's review, I knew George wasn't going to be in tonight's episode, and again, he wasn't, and I'm going to stick by my initial thoughts about the whole George-Christine storyline. It honestly didn't even need to be in the show. It brought up some very dull moments this season, all the scenes between Norma, Christine, and George. It really just, in my opinion, they could have wrote around that. They really could have, and they didn't even need those characters, honestly. Norma didn't need to get a seat on that council. She didn't need George to get that seat. All she needed was Nick Ford anyway. So Christine's pissed at her because of how she stabbed George in the back, basically, and yeah. So like I said, guys, that whole storyline with Christine and George, it was just pointless. Okay, and they concluded it. It's done. George and Christine I highly doubt they're coming back for the season 3. It was just a pointless storyline, in my opinion, honestly, to just propel the story in an unnecessary way. They didn't need to be there. But anyway, I'm gonna move on. So Norman, after getting out of that box, the main thing that he can't stop thinking about, I should say, is the fact that he came to reality and he came to realize his demons while he was in that box, and realized the truth of what he did that night to Miss Watson. And he's surprised with himself and knows that something is definitely wrong with him. He's finally had that realization, because he knows he's been having these blackouts, and he knows that he's just been absolutely losing it while he's had these blackouts. And now, in the biggest blackout he's had, arguably, where he killed Miss Watson and slept with her, he finally realized it, and he's like, oh crap, I've got a problem. And he's going to take matter to his own hands this episode, which I'm going to get into. But there was a really interesting scene between him and Norma in towards the beginning of the episode, where they're having dinner, and it was a very well acted scene. It's where he confesses to her. He's like, I think I killed Miss Watson. I know I slept with her. And Norma, obviously, she doesn't want to hear this, because this obviously is bad. This could possibly, at that point in the episode, it could have meant jail time for Norman if he gets convicted, because Romero is still after Norman. He wants that polygraph test done. So Romero even tells Norman in this episode, listen, we found Norman, it's great that he's back, but I'm going to bring him in for this polygraph test. He needs to be tested. I need to have these answers because I think I convicted the wrong guy, and I need to know for sure. So this whole episode is building up to that polygraph test, and that is shown in the end of the episode. The polygraph test is the last scene in the episode, and the whole episode builds up to that. And we're asking ourselves, because if there are several ways that this episode could have gone, all according to what the polygraph test says, whether Norman passes or fails it. So that's why I thought the episode was really tense. It had that slow type of tension, slow building, but you could tell that you couldn't wait for the final scene with the polygraph test, because all would finally be revealed to the characters. And I really couldn't wait for that whole polygraph test scene, so I was really excited for that. Every other scene in the episode was kind of, I don't know, just okay. There were two other storylines that were nicely concluded, in my opinion. They were wrapped up nicely, and I'm going to get into them now. And one of them is the whole drug war. The drug war finally ends in this episode. Now, you guys know my thoughts on it from the beginning of the season. I wasn't a fan of it. I thought it was honestly a waste of time, and it just wasn't really necessary to the main story of Norman Bates. And my opinion changed about midway into the season. I was really impressed with the tone the drug war had taken and the route they went with it. So I was interested to see how they would conclude it. Now, Jodi, played by Kathleen Robertson, the head of the whole operation, calls Zane up, and who is still in that safe house, by the way, and tells him, listen, Nick Ford's dead. I talked Dylan into doing it, and listen, you should come over. We could plot our next move about what to do with Dylan. And you could tell that something's up. Why did she just lie to Zane when she's talking to him on the phone? The camera pans, and you see Romero and Dylan, and you could tell that Romero still is after Zane. So I knew that things were not going to end well for Zane in this episode. What I didn't know is that things were not going to end well for Jodi either, because Zane shows up at Jodi's house, and these gunshots go off, and Romero goes out to investigate. Zane goes into the house, and Jodi takes out a blade and cuts Zane. She finds Zane and cuts him, which I thought was really dumb because he had a gun in his hand. He ended up shooting her anyway. So he kills Jodi, and then he points the gun at Dylan. Romero is behind Zane and takes a shotgun, and I think he shot Zane in the face. No, I don't think he did. I don't know, it was weird. Like, it looked like he shot him in the face, but he didn't, because it wasn't bleeding around the facial area, so I don't know where he shot him, but he did shoot and kill Zane. So both Zane and Jodi are dead. Now, one reason why I liked how they did that is because that poses a lot of different ways the story can go in Season 3, namely because no one is running the drug business now. So who do you all think is going to take over that business? Most likely Dylan. So I do like where they're going with that. So Dylan is going to become even a more essential character in Season 3, and I like where they're going with that, and the fact that he could possibly become the head of this drug business could only mean that he's going to get involved in probably a lot more worse conflicts or something along that line. So I'm really interested to see where they're going to go with that. Now, the one reason why I didn't like how Jodi and Zane went out is that I thought it was just the way that scene was written was just a little dumb. She slices him, and he has a gun. Okay. So I think she knew she was going to get it. I don't know, because if I was you, I would not have done that. If I was her, I would not have done that. Okay? If someone has a gun, you do not take a knife and try to cut them because they're going to shoot you if you don't do it properly, if you don't cut them properly. So, and not only that whole relationship between Zane and Jodi just wasn't concluded that well, in my opinion. It ended kind of abruptly, really, and I don't know. I was just a little bit let down with that. But overall, I'm willing to look past that. It kind of feels like they were introduced into this season, and then the season just took them out kind of abruptly when I think that maybe they could have even made it to the next season. I don't know, but that's just how I feel. What did you guys think about that? But anyway, moving on. And the other storyline that was concluded tonight was the story between the tension. Well, the fight between Dylan and Norma, and the fact that Caleb was Dylan's father, and he raped Norma and all that. That was concluded very well, in my opinion, in a very sweet scene between Norma and Dylan, because Norma's panicking because she really thought that Norman killed. She thinks Norman killed Miss Watson, and she's panicking. She wants to move Norman to Montreal, and she wants to move Dylan as well. And when she tells Dylan this, Dylan's like, "Oh, you bought me a plane ticket? Or you bought me a ticket to Montreal?" And they have a very nice scene where they reunite, and I like what they did with that relationship, because that was strained the whole season ever since Dylan found out about Caleb. Dylan even moved out of the house because of this whole thing. And it was nice to see that conclude. That fight that they had, that struggle that the two of them had with each other, and you can tell from that scene not only that they made their amends with each other, but Norma does really love Dylan, even though she's scarred from what Caleb had done to her. Norma does care for Dylan. She even says it early in the episode. She's like, "Dylan, I love you so much," for when he helped save Norman from the box. So I really do like that conclusion of that storyline. That was wrapped up very well, in my opinion, and that was built up the whole entire season because of the tension between Dylan and Norma. They've been at disagreement in many episodes. And they finally made up tonight, and I enjoyed seeing that. And real quick, guys, I'm just gonna check my notes to make sure I'm not forgetting anything. I just hit a blank all of a sudden. Okay, yeah, I have two more things to discuss about the plot, and then I'm done. But meanwhile, yeah, Dylan's like, you know what, you can't run away with Norman. He has to face this. He probably has to go to some insane asylum, some insane institution to get some help, because he clearly has a problem. And Norma's like, no, I'm not standing for that. I don't want him to go through that. But anyway, Norma returns home to their house and finds that Norman has gone, left a note on her bed, and she goes to look for him, and she finds him in the woods with a gun. Now, early in the episode, he stole Norma's gun, and apparently it was implied that he was going out into the woods to kill himself. And this scene was interesting because Norma stops him, she talks him out of it, and she finally tells Norman about the blackout that he had the day his father died, and she doesn't flat out say, "Listen, you killed your father," but she implies it, and she's like, "You would do anything to protect me," and she implied that he killed his own father to save Norma. And Norman is insistent on killing himself. He knows he has that problem from what he realized in the box, and he knows that you know what, I'm only making things worse. I'm killing people. I have to put an end to this, and that's why he felt like he should kill himself in this episode. And sorry about that, guys. So Norma talks him out of doing it, and miraculously talks him out of doing it, takes the gun from him, and tells him a thing about his father. And she's like, "Listen, Norman." The two of them embrace in the woods again in a very creepy. So they've had a lot of. That's something I love to listen to. Norma and Norman had a lot of great creepy moments together, and I love where they're going with that. But anyway, she talks Norman out of killing himself. She's like, "Listen, Norman. My job is to be together with you. We're always meant to be together. You can't do this to yourself." And she doesn't want him going off to some insane asylum. And then she realizes, you know what, we got to face this. You have to take this polygraph test. You can't just kill yourself. And Norman is going to take the polygraph test. Now, in the final scene of the episode, it's the whole polygraph test. Everyone, Norma, Norman, and Dylan all get ready to leave to go for Norman to take this polygraph test. They meet up with Romero, who is is dying to get these answers, and you can tell that it's killing him. And they do this. This is one of those off-the-books polygraph tests, so no one like on the police force knows that Romero's doing this. So the old guy that's performing the polygraph test gets Norman to sit down, straps him up, and Norman he's asking Norman all these questions. He's asking questions about Miss Watson, his life, blah 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 blah, and he starts coming to the question did you or did you not kill Miss Watson? And as soon as he asked that question, Norman freezes, and the whole time he's confessing all these things, and I honestly for a split second thought he was just going to flat out say it, I killed Miss Watson, right there, and it was gonna lead to a very interesting season finale. However, the show surprised me with what they did with this scene, and it was Norman he's about to answer the question. He froze on it for a second, but he sees Norma sitting right near him while he's taking the polygraph test, and she's like, listen, Norman, you didn't kill Miss Watson. I did. But shh, keep it our little secret. But you were innocent. You did not kill Miss Watson. I did. I loved how he saw her, and she, in his mind, he saw his own mother, and she covered up for him about Miss Watson, about who really killed Miss Watson. Even though Norman did do it, but the fact that he subconsciously sees Norma sitting next to him, and she tells him, listen, I did it. I killed Miss Watson. I think made him believe it at that point, because that was his mother. He listens to his mother all the time, and having her tell him, listen, Norman, I did it, that was enough to convince himself to say no when answering that question. But the whole thing is, would he pass the polygraph test even if he says no, even after seeing Norma? So they do not show him saying no, but they show the old guy giving Romero and Norma and Dylan the results, saying that Norman passed. And the very final shot of the episode is a shot on Norman's face, this blank, pale expression on his face, and he kind of has like a smile, but he doesn't smile, and I loved that ending shot, and that's how they ended it. Now, you can argue that the ending to the finale was a little upsetting. You may have wanted more of a cliffhanger ending, even though that would have upset a few of you. It would have even upset me to not know what's going to happen if there was a cliffhanger ending for a couple months. But in a way, I liked how they ended it. They concluded, I think they concluded that storyline of whether or not Norman killed Miss Watson, even though we all know he did. But they finally gave Romero the answer he was looking for. Now the question is Romero going to believe it? Is he going to let it go? I personally don't think this is the end of that storyline. I think Romero is still going to be sketchy, and I think he's going to start asking questions, and I honestly think that's going to lead to his death sometime in season 3. But he made it out of the season. A lot of people thought he was going to bite the dust tonight, but he didn't. So yeah, guys, that is how they ended it, and I thought it was a great ending, because again, this whole season built up the fact of Norman having these blackouts, but now we also know that Norman not only does he have these blackouts, but now he's starting to see Norma whenever, something's going down, and he sees Norma when he feels, I guess, in distress or something, and that not only calms him down, but that says a lot, that it's getting closer and closer to the point in the show where he's going to start to have that split personality as Norma herself. And I can't wait for that moment to happen. You could tell they're starting to build up on that inch by inch, episode by episode, and I'm really liking the direction they're taking the show. So in the end, I enjoyed the season finale. While I don't think it was as tense as last week's episode, it was a great way to end. They concluded some of the storylines very nicely, in my opinion. Maybe not the whole storyline with the drug war, even though it's nice to be past that, and they're gonna explore new territories with Dylan potentially being a leader in season 3. Even though I feel that wasn't personally wrapped up that well, the other storylines were wrapped up quite nicely tonight, and I think that was the point of the finale, not to go out with a bang, to really wrap up a few things and set us up for the stage for season 3, where obviously new developments are going to happen, and something big is going to happen to these characters, and I think, honestly, we're going to have a major character death very shortly. So I like the finale overall, guys. I'm going to go 9 out of 10. One of the better episodes of the season, not the best. That probably would go to the last 2 episodes, wouldn't be my favorites. But I enjoyed tonight's episode, I did. I thought the acting was phenomenal in several scenes. Vera Farmiga, Freddie Highmore, as they've been all season, they were just fantastic. Max Theriot, All of them were really good this season. Nestor Carbonell as Romero, all of them gave really good performances. The score, this episode I really particularly like, especially in the first scene where Romero was in Nick Ford's house, searching for the guards. I really liked that. So yeah. And the episode was well directed, and I did like that final scene with the polygraph. They built up that polygraph the whole episode, and it was nice to see that all conclude. So I was really, overall, a fan of tonight's episode. I liked the way they ended, and I liked the way they're setting us up for Season 3. Now, while I did have problems with the season, I'm going to score the season as a whole. In the end, I'm going to go 8.5 out of 10. So 9 for this episode, for the Season 2 finale, 8.5 out of 10 for the whole season. And I took a few points off for the season as a whole because the first half was very slow, and some of the episodes were very boring, too jumbled and too convoluted, too many plot points in those episodes, and they weren't that exciting. But I'm going to say the final 5 episodes really got me hooked into the second season. I was really impressed with them, honestly. So overall, decent season, even though I feel that the season had way too many unnecessary characters and some storylines that were just breezed through, really, namely the thing with Caleb. So they had a few of those moments, and that's why I went 8.5. But overall, an enjoyable season. I don't know if this is better than Season 1. I don't think so. I think they went a lot further with this season, and they revealed a lot of new things, and they developed a lot of things. So I would probably say this was the better season so far. I don't know. I got to think about that. But that's how I feel about the season. And like I said, the episode in general was the season finale in general was very good. So that's how I feel about the finale, guys. That's how I feel about the season. As for next season, the show can go in a lot of directions, especially with the way they ended. I like how they ended it with this specific ending, and could go in a lot of new directions. They could bring up past events that happened this season. Namely, I think Romero is still going to be on Norman's tail, and I think that's going to be Romero's downfall, because I think he's getting in next season, even though I like Romero. So I was very overall impressed with the last couple episodes of the season and the finale. And the way they ended a few things. Apart from a few iffy conclusions, there were a few other ones that I really did enjoy. An overall decent season. So that's all I have to say about Bates Motel, guys, for this video. Thank you for watching. And of course, guys, let me know what you thought of the season finale down below. Let me know what you thought of the season in general. Not a great season, but a decent, enjoyable, entertaining for the second half season. And that's what I ultimately enjoyed by it. And I'm looking forward to Season 2 because there are a lot of different directions the show can go in. I'm excited to see excuse me, where they're going to go. So thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed the review. Bye, guys.